Hello, guys, and welcome to my podcast, Black Hole Suns Afterthought. Please like and subscribe and do what you gotta do and whatever else has to happen. If you don't like me, don't like this face, don't watch. Anyway, getting into the subject matter. This is the afterthought for my podcast. I will link below the original podcast so you can listen to it. You can come back and hear my thoughts of that. I also link below the next episode so you can kind of be caught up to what the next video will be. So without any more interruptions, let's talk about my podcast on the X-Men. I went in length about my feelings about the X-Men. I love the X-Men. It's my favorite comic, my favorite franchise in the Marvel universe for sure, even more than Captain America. Oh my gosh, crazy. I actually like the X-Men better than Iron Man or Thor, those guys, even though I've watched those films and I like them too. X-Men was my first sort of parlay into comics. So it's my favorite one. I like them. Obviously, I like them better than DC. But yeah, no, it's my favorite one. And so on the podcast, I spoke in length about the different sort of incarnations of X-Men. We've got the actual physical comic book. We have the cartoon series from the 90s. We have the movies. If I have to rank them in my own mind, which one I love the best, I would say the cartoon series. The first couple of seasons of the cartoon series, not the last one. We'll talk about that. And then the actual comic, and then very last at the bottom, scraping the barrel, would be the movies. I am not a fan of the movies. I maybe have kind of liked one, which, in a ranking in my brain, something that I would say, hey, I really like this movie. It would be something like, hey, I would go and pay $10 in a theater to watch this movie. Well, not anymore, because now I don't even know if we all have movie theaters. But in my mind, if I can see myself purchasing a ticket, I don't even know if it's $10 anymore. It's probably like 12 now. Like purchasing a ticket to go see a movie in a theater, then I really enjoyed it. For me, none of these X-Men movies from Sony really got that for me, I'm not a fan of the movies at all. So if you go check out the podcast, you'll see I go in length about that. But the one thing I found out, a couple of things I found out. Obviously, because now Disney has acquired the rights to Marvel, and they own, they did the Avengers and all this other stuff. They're actually in talks to, thank God, and obviously, they're going to remake those movies. If you've ever watched those movies, you understand kind of like my so about it. It's not like they're completely terrible. Like if you're home on a Sunday and you have nothing better to do and it comes on TV, yeah, watch it. But I wouldn't spend any money on it, I know Disney Plus has a lot of those movies up, as well as the animated series. They're definitely going to recast and remake all those movies. The one I haven't seen, I've seen a couple of them. The only one I kind of liked out of all the ones that I've seen was Days of Future Past. I thought that was decent. It wasn't like fantastic. But a lot of people have told me I should go see Logan, that one was good too. But just like, I'm like, that's really, really sad. I will say this, that Hugh Jackman did a phenomenal job of playing Wolverine. I am not a fan of Wolverine, never have been, never will pretend to be, but he did a really great job, and he actually kind of gave him sort of layers of compassion. I mean, I always thought Wolverine was some sort of like pissed off Canadian who was always pissed off and like, oh, so for me, I've never been a fan of his in terms of the comics or even the animated series. So when the movies came about and everybody was raving about Hugh Jackman, he really did a phenomenal job. He's a great actor, so he did a great job. It's gonna be really hard recasting that role because everyone's gonna compare whoever the actor is to Hugh Jackman. So look out for that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to see what Disney will do with the franchise. When they start casting and redoing it. What I also talked about on the podcast was the animated series for me, the animated series ranks up here. Like, the animated series for me is number one. I think that's the first time. That was the first time I've seen the X-Men, was the series, and then I got the comic books. Not sure. I don't know which way it went, the chicken before the egg kind of theory. Did I see the comic and then watch the show, or did I see the show and then read the comic? I don't remember. I was really young. I was probably like 8 or 9. So I still don't know. But for me, the animated series, the first couple of seasons, I should say, were phenomenal. That last season, whew, what a messy mess. That last season, you can tell that everybody abandoned ship. They were phoning it in. They were like, let's just get this done. They had taken the animated series that was being done in, I believe, China, and sent it to the Philippines. Go on Disney Plus and watch all of it, obviously, but that last season, watch how mismatch it is in terms of storyline, but also animation, the drawing, the actual animation screen, like the type of animation they use. It was like one was this way and one was this way. It was a hodgepodge of stuff, and it was just like, let's just finish this and put it out there, and it's a bunch of kids who watch it. But it's like, these kids will grow up to be adults and they'll notice this. So there are also, I just recently read, and one of the comic book lore books that I like to read, well, comic book websites, I should say, that they're redoing that show as well to kind of tailor to, these adults who watch the show growing up, but also to make it more like that series and not another reanimation of the series, because there's a lot of cartoons out there that they've reanimated, redone, and it's a brand new version of it. And they're actually going to try to do the exact same thing and try to, keep the storyline and keep it consistent, which is my biggest gripe about the movie. Is like, if we can go back to the movies for a second, I can sit here all day and just talk about the movie. I might just do a podcast about the X-Men movies, because I have a lot to say about the inconsistency and the casting and the directing, and there was a lot going on with those movies that I'm just like, I wish I could love them more. Like, I really just don't care for them. Like when I look at fondness about the X-Men, when I think in fondness about the X-Men, I think about the animation series. I don't think about the movies. I think the movies are crap. I really just think the movies are crap. And I think I may have liked one. Haven't seen Logan. I probably would like it, but overall, I wouldn't spend money on that. Yeah, I love the X-Men. Rogue was my favorite, and so was Gambit. I like their romance. Second to them, I would say maybe Professor Xavier, Jean Grey, Cyclops, Storm, definitely, she was up there too. Wolverine's at the bottom. Jubilee's somewhere in there. Mystique, of course, she's my favorite villain. But yeah, those movies need to be redone. Seriously, who else feels that way? Please put a comment. Be like, yeah, dude, those movies need to wholly be redone. Just in the same way as Avengers, the way they did it, I don't know. I know that they had different people direct it, but they kind of merge. If you have an Avenger movie night, which is going to be super long, I feel like they don't really lose a step in making those movies. Like, there's not really a super big misstep. Like, I think Iron Man 2 was kind of wonky. Like, I'm just not crazy about Iron Man 2. I believe that's the one with Mickey Rourke. He plays the Russian guy with the whip. I don't know. I wasn't like crazy about that one. But and then Dark World for Thor was kind of also kind of wonky. But in the most part, there's more positive than negative. Like in the X-Men films, that there's more negative than positive. So if they can get on board with that and kind of make it consistent and kind of make it, and maybe keep the same cast. Like, the only person that was consistent throughout, and I get that there's age difference and whatever, was Patrick Stewart. Not even Patrick Stewart, because then he becomes younger. Anyway, they somehow managed to make Wolverine, maybe that, yeah, you know what? Erase what I just said, because I feel like Wolverine has lived so long that you can keep the same actor throughout the story, so that does make sense. But yeah, it's just weird. I don't care for those movies. And I was watching this really great show called Caravan of Garbage, which is a hilarious show. If you like comics, you like sci-fi, you like horror, they just rag. They just stick it into these movies. I especially like the one with the Superman with Henry Cavill. They really dig into him. But it's funny, it's fun, it's funny. And they do a lot of X-Men movies. And they just like, oh my gosh, it's hilarious. If you look it up after this, YouTube, Caravan of Garbage. And they do a couple different films. But they really hit it home with the fact that the timelines don't match. And the fact that this movie is in 1990 and then this movie's in 1999. But then this movie, well, the time setting, not the actual movie release. The time setting of this one is in 1990, but then this movie's in 1980. But you have older Xavier here, who's like in his 70s, and then you have young Xavier here, who's in his 30s. So you're telling me in that time frame, he's aged that much? Like he was young, and then 8 years later, he's like in the 70s. We're not stupid, okay? So I always feel like when I watch those movies, I'm just like, are they like... The one that's an injustice is the Wolverine with Hugh Jackman, but I believe it's the Wolverine, or X-Men Origin Wolverine. It's the one where they have Deadpool come in. I do like Deadpool. Like, I forget that he's an X-Men, but I love the Deadpool movies. So I guess that goes in there too. But I have to do a separate thing for Deadpool because I feel like Deadpool is his own kind of person in that sense, even though he's an X-Men. So in Wolverine Origins, they bring in Deadpool, Sabretooth, and then they bring in Gambit, Tyler Kitchening, I forget his name. Good grief. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. And I say this in the podcast too. This particular actor, he's kind of wooden, stiff, very attractive man, incredibly attractive. He was in the John Carter movies, and he ruined that for me too. Like, I'm just like, who thought that this guy would be so great in this? I heard he redeemed himself when he did the show Waco, but I'm just kind of like, who was like, this guy, he's great. He's stiff as a fucking board. Perfect Gambit. Because, Gambit was boring. He wasn't boring. So for me, it's like, the bottom line, straight up answer is remake the damn movies now, Disney. You have to do it. It's going to be hard to recast Wolverine because I would be honest, the Wolverine character that Hugh Jackman created is going to be hard to top. Really, it's going to be hard to top. Whoever this actor is who's going to play it, he's going to bring his A+++ game to this movie because seriously, you cannot replace that version of Wolverine. Also, there's talks about rebranding the comic series like it was in the 90s, which would be good because I feel like I see a lot of like those old school cartoon shows, I should say, come back from the 90s, but it's like a reanimation of it. Like they have a Thundercats from 2011 that's more of an anime. It doesn't have the same storyline, but it has the same characters, so it's kind of different. So that's what they do. In some cases, they don't bring back like the theme music, which is like the best part. Like, how can you not bring back that original danceable, classy 80s, 90s dance music? Like, you're a jerk for doing that. So, but yeah, no, I gotta say that I'm excited to see the new versions of the X-Men movies and even the cartoon. So put down below in my comments what you think. You think I'm crazy? You think I'm just like wacky? Do you agree with me? What is your favorite part of the X-Men series or franchise? What part are you like, oh, they really need to make that over? Please also like and subscribe and pass this around, repost, and thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.